I never expected my own family to make me feel smaller than the insects I study. But there I am, sitting at my parents' cramped dining table, picking at honey-roasted chicken while Lucy's voice fills every corner of the room. The whole romantic tour, she says, her voice bright with excitement. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. About $3,000. But it's worth the investment. My throat tightens. Worth the investment. Just 3 days ago, she called me crying about a $2,000 credit card debt, begging me to help just this one more time. And I did what I always do. Transferred the money without hesitation. 10 years of this pattern. 10 years of being the fixer, the provider, only to sit here invisible while she plans European vacations. The dining room feels smaller with Lucy's excitement bouncing off the faded wallpaper. Mom's eyes shine as she hangs on every detail of the itinerary. Dad chuckles and shakes his head in that fond way he reserves for his golden child. I clear my throat, trying to find a way into the conversation. I'm also working on an exciting project. A bioagricultural system that uses beneficial insects to... Mom cuts me off with that patient look she saves for listening to children describe their imaginary friends. Still busy with those bugs, dear? Dad chuckles, reaching for more chicken. Maybe you'll find something useful someday. The familiar ache settles in my chest like a stone. I've been documenting pest control methods that could revolutionize sustainable farming. But to them, I might as well be collecting bottle caps. Lucy launches into another story about her boyfriend Rick, and I fade back into the wallpaper where I belong. But not today. Today, I need something from them, and the weight of that need sits heavy in my stomach. I'm thinking about Grandma's old farm. I say during a rare pause in Lucy's monologue. It would be perfect for my project. Grandma always said it would be mine someday. The mood shifts like someone turned down the thermostat. Dad's fork pauses halfway to his mouth. Mom's smile becomes calculating. That property is in my name, sweetheart, Dad says, his voice taking on a business tone I've never heard him use with Lucy. She never changed the paperwork. A flash of memory hits me. Grandma's weathered hands showing me a tiny parasitic wasp in her garden. Nature knows how to protect herself, Kinsley. The strong don't survive by being cruel. They survive by being smart. But she promised. I whisper. Mom's laugh sounds like breaking glass. Promises and legal documents are two different things, honey. The week that follows feels like swimming through mud. Charlotte, my best friend since college, listens to my plan over coffee and nods with that sharp financial mind of hers. Bring them a purchase agreement, she suggests. $1. Make it official. They can't argue with legal paperwork, but they can laugh at it. And they do. Mom actually scoffs when she sees the document. $1? Really, Kinsley? Dad's eyes meet Mom's across the table, and I watch some silent communication pass between them. The kind of wordless conversation that comes from 30 years of marriage and shared priorities that don't include me. Well then, Dad says finally, $20,000. That's a family price. $20,000. The number hits me like a physical blow. After paying Lucy's debt, Owen and I have exactly $16,300 in our joint savings account. Money we plan to use as collateral for a business loan for greenhouse equipment. I only have 16, I managed to say. Dad shrugs with the casual cruelty that comes so naturally to him. Then I guess that's not enough. I step outside onto their small porch, my hands shaking as I dial Charlotte's number. The November air bites through my thin sweater, but I barely feel it. They want $20,000, I tell her when she answers. But I only have 16, and I can't call the cops. I have no legal standing. Charlotte's voice turns hard in a way that makes me grateful she's on my side. He's stealing the farm your grandmother wanted you to have. But she didn't make a will, I choke out. My dad is her only child, and he hated that farm. Maybe that's why she thought no one would fight me for it. Listen to me, Charlotte says, and I can hear her moving around, probably already pulling up her banking app. I'm sending you the full $20,000. Use your $16,000 to start building. This isn't a gift, she continues. It's seed money. I'm your first partner. I trust you, even if your family doesn't. The next morning, I stand in my parents' kitchen with a cashier's check for $20,000. Dad examines it like he's looking for a forgery. Mom hovers behind him, her face a mixture of surprise and something that might be grudging respect. Well, Dad says, sliding the deed across their scratched kitchen table, I guess that's that. I sign my name next to theirs, my hand steadier than it's been in weeks. The farm that raised my grandmother, that she walked with me through when I was small and curious about every crawling thing, is finally mine. But as I slip the deed into my old leather briefcase, I realize something has shifted. The desperate need for their approval that drove me here feels different now. Quieter. Like it's been replaced by something else entirely. Something that feels dangerously like determination. The next 18 months feel like punishment for wanting something this badly. Owen and I stand in the middle of what used to be Grandma's farm, our $16,300 burning through our fingers like water through a broken dam. The morning sun shows us exactly what we've bought ourselves. Cracked irrigation pipes snake through weeds that reach my waist. The old barn leans so far to the left I'm surprised it's still standing. Water pump first? Owen says, his botanist's mind already cataloging what needs fixing. Without irrigation, nothing else matters. We find a used pump for $800. Installation materials eat another $300. Fence repairs swallow $600 more. By the end of the first month, we've spent nearly $2,000 just to make the place functional enough to start working on it. I learn what 16-hour days actually feel like. My hands blister from digging irrigation trenches. Owen's back seizes up twice from hauling pipe. We take turns collapsing into bed at night, too exhausted to do anything but stare at the ceiling and wonder what we've gotten ourselves into. The water table isn't where the old maps said it would be. We dig 3 test wells before we find reliable water. Each failed attempt costs us $500 we don't have. The fence collapses during a storm in February, and we spend a weekend in freezing rain rebuilding it ourselves because we can't afford to hire anyone. By March, our joint savings account has $437 left. This is insane, Owen says, standing knee-deep in mud after another irrigation pipe bursts. His research background prepared him for controlled laboratory environments, not this daily chaos of broken equipment and unpredictable weather. We're hemorrhaging money for a system that might not even work. I want to argue with him, but the numbers don't lie. We've burned through most of our savings and we're not even close to having a functioning bioagricultural system. The beneficial insects I plan to introduce won't survive in soil this depleted. The water filtration system exists only on paper because we can't afford the materials to build it. That night, I stare at my phone for 20 minutes before finally calling home. Mom, it's Kinsley. Oh, honey. Her voice brightens with surprised pleasure. How's your little project going? The words, little project, hit like a slap, but I swallow my pride. Actually, I was hoping to talk to you and Dad about a short-term loan, just to get through the startup phase. Silence stretches across the line. When Mom speaks again, her tone has shifted to something colder. A loan? Kinsley, we already sold you that property. At a very generous family price, I might add. I know, but honestly, sweetheart, this whole farming experiment seems a bit impractical. Maybe it's time to consider something more realistic. The conversation ends 5 minutes later with polite excuses about tight budgets and obligations. I sit on our front porch afterward, watching the sun set over acres of half-finished irrigation ditches, feeling smaller than I did sitting at their dinner table. 2 days later, Lucy posts on Instagram. A photo of herself in designer boots standing in a field somewhere, arms spread wide. The caption reads, "Living my best farm girl life. Authentic. Back to basics. Blessed." The comments pile up underneath. Heart emojis from her friends. "Ah, so cute." And, "You should totally start a farming blog." Owen finds me staring at my phone, my hands shaking with rage. "She's mocking me," I whisper. He looks at the post and his jaw tightens. She's mocking us. Our work. Everything we're trying to build here. But what choice do we have? We can't stop now. We've invested everything. The breakthrough comes in May when Charlotte drives out to see our progress. I almost cancel her visit because I'm embarrassed by how little we have to show for 18 months of backbreaking work. The irrigation system functions, but barely. The soil improvement trials show promise, but nothing concrete yet. "This is incredible," she says, standing next to our test plots, where we've been experimenting with beneficial insect populations. "It's a mess," I correct her. "We're months behind schedule and almost out of money." Charlotte crouches down and examines the soil composition data I've been tracking. Her financial mind processes the numbers differently than my discouraged scientist brain. "Look at your pest reduction rates," she says, pointing to my charts. 60% decrease in harmful insects without any chemical intervention. The water filtration metrics are outstanding. And this soil analysis shows remarkable improvement in just 18 months. I hadn't seen it that way. I'd been so focused on what wasn't working that I missed what was. You're not failing? Charlotte continues, standing up and brushing soil from her hands. You're building something revolutionary, but you need more capital to finish it properly. We can't afford. I can. She pulls out her phone and starts making notes. This isn't charity, Kinsley. This is investment. Real investment. I want to be your partner, not just your lender. The money arrives in our account the next week. $15,000, with a partnership agreement that makes Charlotte a 20% owner of whatever we build here. For the first time in months, Owen smiles when he wakes up in the morning. We hire proper equipment for the soil conditioning. Install the water filtration system I designed but couldn't afford to build. The beneficial insect introduction program finally gets the resources it needs to succeed. 3 months later, I stand with Owen and Charlotte in the center of what has become a functioning bio-agricultural ecosystem. The morning air hums with the sound of healthy insect activity. Our test crops grow in neat rows, protected by nature's own pest control system. Look at this, I say, leading them to the edge of our property where a massive oak tree provides natural shade for the water filtration station. Attached to the far side of the trunk, completely hidden from casual view, hangs a large, papery gray nest the size of a basketball. Bald-faced hornets. I explain, my voice filled with respect rather than fear. They're incredibly territorial, but they're also natural predators of the insects that would destroy our crops. They're like having security guards who work for free. Charlotte stares at the nest with fascination. They just showed up? Nature fills the niches that support it, Owen says, his scientific excitement matching mine. The ecosystem Kinsley designed attracted exactly the kind of beneficial species we need. I watch the hornets coming and going from their nest, each one focused on its job of protecting this small corner of the world they've claimed as their own. Something about their purposeful determination resonates with me. They're our guards, I say quietly. Natural predators who know exactly what they're protecting. The patent approval letter arrives on a Tuesday morning, official and thick in my hands. I read it 3 times before Owen's whoop of joy from across our tiny kitchen finally makes it real. We did it. The bioagricultural system that uses beneficial insects for pest control is officially ours. Kinsley Harper, Charlotte Mason, and Owen Harper. I read aloud, savoring each syllable. Joint patent holders. Charlotte squeals when I call her, the sound so unlike her usual composed financial analyst persona that I have to hold the phone away from my ear. We need to file incorporation papers immediately, she says, her voice crackling with energy. I already have lawyers standing by. Within a week, Harper Mason Agricultural Solutions exists on paper and in reality. Charlotte handles the legal framework while Owen and I focus on documenting our methods. The farm hums with activity. Bees dance between flowering plants in our pollinator strips. The bald-faced hornet nest, which started small last spring, now spans 3 feet of the old oak tree's trunk. Nature's own security system, I tell Owen. He laughs, but I've watched those hornets patrol our borders with the dedication of trained guards. The call from Genesis Corp comes on a Friday afternoon while I'm testing soil samples near the irrigation channels. Owen's voice carries across the field, urgent and breathless. Kinsley, phone! Dr. Sarah Martinez from Genesis speaks with the crisp authority of someone accustomed to making million-dollar decisions before lunch. Miss Harper, we've been following your work through agricultural journals and patent filings. We'd like to schedule a site visit next week. Are you available? Available? I almost laugh. We've been working 16-hour days for 2 years, and now Genesis wants to see our little operation. Of course, I manage. They arrive with an entourage, Dr. Martinez, 2 engineers, and a woman with sharp eyes who introduces herself as Director of Strategic Partnerships. They spend 4 hours examining every irrigation line, every beneficial insect habitat, every data point we've collected. The director keeps asking questions about scalability and replication potential. The hornet integration is particularly impressive, Dr. Martinez says, watching our guardians patrol their territory. Natural pest deterrent with zero chemical inputs. Brilliant. 3 days later, the offer comes through Charlotte's law firm. Genesis wants to license our system for nationwide implementation. The numbers make my hands shake. $2 million up front, plus royalties on every installation. We're millionaires. Charlotte whispers when she calls. Kinsley, we're actually millionaires. The local newspaper runs the story first. Local entomologist strikes gold with bug-based farming. Then the agricultural trade magazines pick it up. By Thursday, a reporter from the state paper drives out to interview us. Owen grins so wide during the photo session that I worry his face might stick that way. The call from Mom comes that evening while Owen and I sit on our porch, still processing the whirlwind week. Her voice sounds different, bright, animated in a way I haven't heard directed at me since. Ever. Kinsley, honey, we saw the newspaper article. Your father and I are so proud. So proud. The words tumble out like she's reading from a script she's been rehearsing. That's my daughter, the famous scientist. Mrs. Henderson from next door couldn't believe it. Our little Kinsley, a millionaire. Our little Kinsley. The phrase sits wrong in my chest, like food that won't digest properly. Where was this pride when I needed it? When I begged them to let me have Grandma's farm? Thank you, Mom. My voice sounds flat even to my own ears. We should celebrate. Family dinner this Sunday. I'll make your favorite pot roast. Pot roast isn't my favorite. It's Lucy's. But I don't correct her. That sounds nice. After I hang up, Owen studies my face in the golden afternoon light. You don't look happy about your parents' call. They want to celebrate now. Where were they when we were eating ramen for 6 months straight? He reaches for my hand, his fingers warm and steady. People change, Kins. Maybe this success helped them see what you've been building. I want to believe him. Part of me has waited 31 years to hear pride in my mother's voice. But another part, the scientist in me, recognizes a pattern when data points align. Public success equals sudden parental attention. The correlation feels too clean to be coincidence. Lucy's Instagram post appears 2 hours later. A screenshot of the newspaper article with the caption, "So proud of my brilliant sister. Family first. Success. Sister love." Heart emojis and celebration confetti fill the comments from friends who've heard her mock my bug hobby at family gatherings. The cognitive dissonance makes my teeth ache. Sunday dinner feels like performance theater. Mom has set the table with her good china, the set reserved for Christmas and Easter. Dad asks detailed questions about agricultural markets and profit margins with the intense focus of someone who's suddenly discovered oil in his backyard. Lucy hangs on every word about Genesis Corp., her eyes bright with calculated interest. $2 million, Dad repeats, whistling low. Plus royalties. That's real money, Kinsley. Real money. As opposed to the fake money I've been living on while building this system from nothing. The partnership ceremony is next week. Owen explains. Genesis wants media coverage. Agricultural Innovation Showcase. Media coverage. Mom claps her hands together. My daughter on television. Lucy leans forward, her smile sharp as winter air. You'll have to be careful now, Kinsley. Success makes people jealous, makes them want to tear down what you've built. The words hit differently coming from her, like a warning wrapped in concern, but with something else underneath, something that makes the hair on my arms stand up. After dinner, while Owen helps Dad with coffee, Lucy corners me in the kitchen. Her voice drops to that conspiratorial whisper she's used since we were children. You know, Rick has been asking about your farm setup. He's really interested in sustainable agriculture suddenly. She laughs, but it sounds forced. All these years of mocking my sister's bug obsession, and now he wants to know everything about beneficial insects. That's great, I say, though warning bells ring in my head. He even bought some agricultural magazines. And fertilizer. Says he wants to start composting. Her eyes glitter with something I can't identify. Isn't that sweet? My boyfriend. Suddenly so environmentally conscious. The drive home feels longer than usual. Owen chatters about Dad's questions and Mom's obvious pride, but I keep thinking about Lucy's words. Success makes people jealous. Makes them want to tear down what you've built. Monday morning brings a call from Miss Mercy, the competent 50-year-old farm manager we hired last month to handle daily operations while Owen and I travel to partnership meetings. Her voice carries its usual calm professionalism. Good morning, Kinsley. Water quality tests are perfect again this week. The beneficial insect populations are thriving. Everything's running exactly as designed. End quote. Thank you, Miss Mercy. We couldn't do this without you. It's my pleasure. This system you've created, it's revolutionary. Nature protecting herself while feeding people. Your grandmother would be so proud. Her words wrap around me like a warm blanket. Strange how someone I've known for a month understands what this farm means better than the family I've known my whole life. Tuesday evening. Mom calls again. The invitation sounds casual, but I detect something underneath. A fishing expedition disguised as family concern. Lucy wondered if you and Owen might come for dinner Saturday. Nothing fancy, just family. She's so interested in your work now. I'm sorry, Mom. Owen and I have an important meeting at Charlotte's office Saturday afternoon. Partnership details to finalize before the ceremony. Oh. A pause. Well, when will you be back? Probably not until late evening. Charlotte's office is 20 minutes away, but these meetings run long. Of course, dear. Business first. Maybe after the Terragenesis signing, you could treat the whole family to dinner? Somewhere nice? A 5-star restaurant? The suggestion hangs between us, and I realize what I'm hearing. Not maternal pride, but economic opportunity. My success has value to them now, but only the kind that can be converted to dinners and bragging rights. Maybe, I say, which isn't a yes but isn't a no. After I hang up, I walk outside to check on the farm in the gathering twilight. The hornet nest gleams silver-gray in the last light. A few guards patrol the perimeter, their wings catching moonbeams as they circuit their territory. Grandma's words echo in my memory. Nature knows how to protect herself. The strong don't survive by being cruel. They survive by being smart. I wonder if hornets ever have to learn the difference between family and threat, or if they're born knowing that protection sometimes requires boundaries. The thought follows me into sleep, along with the image of Lucy's glittering eyes and her casual mention of Rick's sudden interest in fertilizer. Owen and I are 20 minutes away at Charlotte's office, reviewing partnership contracts for the Terragenesis Corp signing, and Miss Mercy is handling the Saturday shift alone. Miss Mercy doesn't know about my family's toxic history. She sees Lucy's bright smile and hears her explanation about wanting to show young people aspiring to get into agriculture around the farm, and her kind heart opens immediately. Of course, honey, Miss Mercy says, wiping her hands on her work apron. Your sister has built something remarkable here. I'd be happy to give you the full tour. Lucy plays her part perfectly, the devoted sister, proud of her family's success. She asks Miss Mercy detailed questions about the water filtration system, keeping her occupied at the front of the property while Rick and his friends drift toward the back like shadows. This is fascinating, Lucy gushes, pointing at the main control panel. How exactly does the mineral balance work? And what about seasonal variations in water quality? Miss Mercy launches into an explanation that could take 20 minutes. She's passionate about the work, grateful to have someone who seems genuinely interested. But Lucy's eyes keep darting over Miss Mercy's shoulder, tracking her boyfriend's progress. At the back of the farm, Rick grins at his two buddies. Let's make this place filthy, he orders, his voice carrying the cruel excitement of someone who's never built anything worth protecting. They pull chemical bottles from their backpacks, motor oil, harsh fertilizers, anything that would contaminate the delicate ecosystem we've spent 2 years perfecting. Jake, one of Rick's friends, spots a head-high tree at the property's edge. From where he stands, it looks perfectly normal and dense, just another piece of the landscape. He scoffs and unzips his pants. I'll water this one first, he announces, his voice full of juvenile swagger. But he doesn't stop there. After finishing his business, he pulls a small hatchet from his backpack, the kind weekend warriors carry to feel dangerous. A few chops for fun. He raises the hatchet and swings hard into the trunk. What Jake doesn't know, what he can't see from his angle, is that on the exact opposite side of that tree, completely hidden from his view, hangs the massive gray nest of our bald-faced hornets. The impact of his hatchet reverberates through the trunk like a drum, and suddenly the air explodes with fury. Get 'em off me! Jake's scream pierces the afternoon quiet, high and panicked and desperate. The hornets pour out of their nest in a black cloud of rage, and Jake is running, stumbling, his arms windmilling as he tries to brush away insects that have no intention of being brushed away. Rick and his other friend freeze for exactly 2 seconds before Jake's terror reaches them. He's running straight toward them, covered in angry hornets, and the insect's defense system reads this exactly as it was designed to an invasion by multiple threats. The hornets expand their attack. Rick throws his backpack and runs for his life, the plastic chemical bottles banging around inside but, thankfully, still sealed. His friend drops to the ground and rolls, which only makes the hornets angrier. The air fills with the sound of men screaming, boots pounding dirt, and the high whine of insects that have shifted into pure defense mode. Back at the front of the farm, Miss Mercy's explanation about mineral filtration systems cuts off mid-sentence. Those aren't screams of excitement or play. She's worked around men long enough to recognize panic when she hears it. "Stay in here," she orders, grabbing Lucy by the arm and pulling her toward the nearby tool shed. Lucy's face has gone chalk white, all pretense abandoned as her carefully planned sabotage collapses into chaos. Miss Mercy pushes her inside the small building. She's already pulling out her phone, her fingers steady as she dials my number first, then the police. 30 years of farm life taught her to handle emergencies without falling apart. My phone buzzes during a break in the contract discussion. Charlotte and Owen look up from the partnership documents as I answer. "Kinsley?" "Miss?" Mercy's voice is calm but urgent. "You need to get back here. Your sister brought some boys to the farm, and something's gone very wrong. They're being attacked by the hornets." My blood turns cold. The hornets only attack when their nest is directly threatened. These men did something to provoke them, and given Lucy's recent behavior, I know this isn't coincidence. "Are you safe?" I ask, already grabbing my keys. "I'm fine. I locked your sister in the tool shed and called the police. The boys are getting stung pretty badly, but they're alive. They're running toward the road now." Owen and Charlotte are already moving, gathering papers and heading for the door. Charlotte's face shows the same grim understanding I feel. This isn't random vandalism. This is family warfare, and someone just escalated it beyond anything I imagined. The 20-minute drive back to the farm feels eternal. Owen grips the door handle as I take corners faster than I should, while Charlotte calls ahead to make sure emergency services know where to find us. My mind races through possibilities, each one worse than the last. When we arrive, 3 police cars and an ambulance create a light show in our usually peaceful farm entrance. Rick, Jake, and the third man sit in the back of the ambulance, their faces and arms covered in angry red welts. Jake's right hand is swollen to twice its normal size, and Rick keeps touching his neck where darker marks cluster like a necklace of fury. Miss Mercy meets us at the gate, her face grim but relieved. "They didn't get to do whatever they came here to do," she reports. "Jake hit the hornet tree with a hatchet, and that was the end of their plan." I walk quickly through the back section of the farm, checking water quality sensors and examining the scattered backpacks the men dropped in their panic. Chemical bottles roll in the dirt, caps still sealed, contents unspilled. The hornets saved everything we've built. Officer Martinez, a woman I've met at community meetings, approaches with a clipboard. "Miss Harper, we need to know if you want to press charges. Looks like they came here with intent to damage your property." I look across the yard where Lucy sits on the ambulance bumper, no longer locked in the shed but clearly shaken. Her face shows a mixture of guilt and defiance that I recognize from childhood, caught in the act but still hoping to talk her way out of consequences. For 31 years, I've protected her from the results of her choices, paid her debts, made excuses, enabled her sense that actions don't have real consequences. "No," I say finally. "There's no actual damage, but I want a restraining order." Officer Martinez nods approvingly. "Smart choice. Sometimes the legal boundary is more effective than criminal charges." Lucy's eyes widen as she realizes what I've said. She opens her mouth to protest, to explain, to manipulate, but I'm already walking away. The woman who once desperately craved her family's approval has learned something important from the hornets. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is defend what matters, even if it stings. Miss Mercy hurries over, her face creased with concern. I should have known something was wrong. She kept asking such detailed questions about our water systems, keeping me distracted while the men disappeared. "This isn't your fault," I tell her. "You had no reason to suspect my own sister would." I stop, unable to finish the sentence. "Let me check the damage," Owen says, heading toward the back of the property. I follow him, dreading what we might find. The chemical fertilizers and motor oil could have poisoned our water filtration system. Months of work destroyed. The Terragenesis partnership ceremony is supposed to happen next week, if the farm isn't functioning. But as we round the corner near the disturbed hornet nest, Owen stops and grins. Look. The tree Jake attacked shows fresh axe marks in its trunk, but the bottles of chemicals lie scattered and unopened where the saboteurs dropped them in their panic. Not a single cap was removed. Not one drop of poison touched our systems. The hornets stopped them before they could do anything, I whisper, feeling something like awe. The nest itself hangs undamaged on the far side of the tree, its gray surface gleaming in the late afternoon sun. A few guards circle lazily, but they ignore us completely. We're not a threat to their territory. Your grandmother was right, Owen says softly. Nature does know how to protect herself. Back at the parking area, the ambulance has departed with its cargo of stung saboteurs. Sergeant Martinez hands me a business card, with information about filing the restraining order paperwork. Through the shed window, I can see Lucy slumped on the bucket again, her phone pressed to her ear. Calling, Mom, probably, or Dad. For once, I don't care what she tells them. For once, their disappointment in me feels like someone else's problem. 3 days later, I stood in the courthouse holding a signed restraining order. Lucy has to stay at least 500 feet away from me, Owen, and our property for the next 2 years. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, had read the police report with obvious disgust. Family disputes are always difficult, she told me after signing the order, but what your sister did crossed every line. You're making the right choice. The following week, the Terragenesis Corp partnership ceremony proceeds without a single hitch. The executives, after hearing about our farm's self-protecting ecosystem, are even more impressed than before. They see the hornet attack as proof that our bioagricultural model can literally defend itself against interference. Revolutionary? The lead executive keeps saying. Nature as its own security system. I smile and accept their congratulations, but inside I'm thinking about something else entirely. For the first time in my life, I protected something that mattered to me. I drew a line and held it, even when it hurt. Even when it meant choosing my own peace over family obligation. 6 months have passed since the Terragenesis partnership ceremony, and I barely recognize my life anymore. The kitchen window where I used to stare longingly at Grandma's abandoned fields now, frames rolling green expanses dotted with white research tents. Owen and I have become traveling consultants, flying from Ohio to Oregon to help other farmers implement our bioagricultural model. Millionaires, Charlotte said last week, showing me our latest financial reports with a grin that could power the entire farm. Officially, legally, undeniably millionaires. The word still feels foreign in my mouth. Growing up, $1 million seemed as distant as Mars. Now our system is being replicated in 12 states, with expansion proposals coming in faster than Mercy can file them. This morning, Owen and I sit on our rebuilt front porch, watching the sunrise paint our fields in shades of gold and amber. The hornets have rebuilt their nest in the same oak tree where Jake's foolish hatchet swing changed everything. The papery gray structure hangs like a protective lantern, 20 feet higher than before. Nature adapts, I murmur, taking a sip of coffee that tastes better than any lobster dinner ever could. Owen's hand finds mine, warm and calloused from 2 years of building something that matters. We've just returned from a site visit to a struggling wheat farm in Kansas, where our beneficial insect population reduced pesticide use by 80% in just 4 months. The farmers' children can play in fields that don't smell like chemicals anymore. The phone rings from inside the house. Owen squeezes my hand and heads in to answer it, probably another consultation request. Our partnership with Terragenesis opened doors I never knew existed. Agricultural universities want me to lecture. Environmental groups seek our endorsement. Foreign governments inquire about licensing our methods. But the voice that drifts through the open window makes my blood run cold. Kinsley, honey, we are so proud of you. The family hasn't gotten together in so long. Owen appears in the doorway, phone extended, his expression carefully neutral. Mom's voice continues its sickeningly sweet melody through the speaker. Why don't you come over for dinner this weekend? I'll buy lobster. That's your favorite, right? I take the phone with steady hands. These were the words I waited 31 years to hear. The invitation, the pride. The assumption that lobster is still my favorite food, as if she's spent decades cataloging my preferences instead of ignoring them. Through the window, I can see the hornet nest swaying gently in the morning breeze. The insects inside are peaceful now, content in their fortress they built without asking anyone's permission. "No, Mom," I say softly. "I'm busy." Silence stretches across the line like a held breath. In the background, I can hear Dad's television and what sounds like Lucy crying about something. More drama, more crisis, more need for someone else to fix what they've broken. Busy? Mom's voice shifts, losing its honey coating. "But we're family, Kinsley. This is important." "I know," I say, still watching the hornet's nest. "But I'm busy." There's sputtering on the other end, the sound of someone unaccustomed to hearing the word "no" from me. Probably the first time in 3 decades. I feel Owen's presence behind me, solid and supportive, representing the family I chose rather than the one that chose to overlook me. "We'll call you later then," Mom says, her voice turning sharp with the promise of future manipulation attempts. "You can try," I say, and hang up. The silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of chirping insects, rustling leaves, and the distant hum of agricultural equipment tending to crops that will feed families without poisoning the soil their children play in. Owen settles back into his chair beside me, not asking questions, not demanding explanations. He understands that some victories require nothing more than witness. I lean back and close my eyes, feeling something settle in my chest that I've never experienced before. Not the familiar ache of rejection, not the desperate hunger for approval that drove 31 years of invisible sacrifice, freedom. The hornets rebuilt their nest higher and stronger than before, protected by experience and strengthened by survival. Just like me. When I open my eyes, the sun has risen fully over our fields, illuminating an ecosystem that protects itself through balance rather than aggression. The entomologist who once craved her family's approval had finally built something that couldn't be torn down by their indifference, something that was entirely, completely, beautifully mine.